Good morning, class 9th. Today I am going to teach you about the tissue. In the last class, I introduced you about the tissue. Tissue is the group of the same type of cell. Now, today I am going to teach you about the plant tissue. The plant tissue are dividing in two parts, that is meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Plant tissue, meristematic and permanent. The meristematic tissue, these cells are capable of division. Overall, the meristematic tissues cells are capable of division, means they have capacity to divide. Now, the meristematic tissue again divided in three parts, that is apical, intercalary and lateral. While the meristematic tissue and permanent tissue, plant tissue divide in meristematic tissue and permanent tissue. Meristematic tissue are capable of division, while the permanent tissue, they lost the division capacity. Now, meristematic, as I told you, that apical, intercalary and lateral. Apical tissue, that is present in the apic of root and shoot, at the tip of the root and shoot, while intercalary, that is present at the node of the leaf or branch, while the lateral tissue, lateral meristem tissue, that is present, they just increase the girth of the stem. Okay, while permanent tissue, they lost the capacity of division and they are again divided in two parts, that is simple and complex. Simple permanent tissue, these are a single type of cell, while the complex permanent tissue, they are multiple type of cell. There are so many types of cells. The simple permanent tissue again divided in parenchyma, collenchyma and sclerenchyma. These are the three parts of the simple permanent tissue, while in complex there is two types, xylem and phloem. This is the preview that we have to study about these tissue in plant, because they are the types of plant tissue. So let me start to read about the plant tissue. Now, the plant tissue. First, meristematic tissue. Meristematic tissue, the growth of the plant occurs only in certain specific region. As you know that the plant have the certain position from where it start to grow. This is because the dividing tissue, also known as the meristematic tissue, and due to presence of dividing tissue, and dividing tissue are also known as meristematic tissue, the plant become grow. So these types of tissue is located only at this point from where the plant is start to grow. Depending on the region where they are present, meristematic tissue are classified as apical, lateral and intercalary. So new cells produced by meristem, you can see that there is the dividing going to start. So the new cells produced by meristem are initially like those of meristem itself, but as they grow and mature, whenever these cells grow and matures, their characteristics slowly, or you can say slightly, change and they differentiated as component of other tissues like permanent tissue. Okay, now apical meristem, it's present in the growing tip of the root and shoot, and they increase the length of the stem and the root. As they are present at the tip of the shoot, so it increase its length, and of course they are present at the tip of the root. That is the reason they also increase the length of the root. Okay, now second is the intercalary meristem. Intercalary meristem, it is located between the region of permanent tissue or at the base of the leaves. You can see there is the base, at the base of the leaves, and contribute in the longitudinal growth. You can see that they just contribute in the longitudinal growth of the plant. You can see that is elongation. Now come on the lateral meristem. They are located laterally and cause to increase in the girth of the stem or root. These are the three types of meristematic tissue, that is apical, intercalary and lateral. Let me remind you, apical, that is present at the tip of the root and shoot. Intercalary meristem, they are located between the region of permanent tissues or at the base of the leaves, while the lateral tissue, they are present laterally and they increase the girth of the tissue. Okay, now we come in the simple permanent tissue. This is the second part. First we read about the permanent tissue, then permanent tissue will break out into dividing into simple and complex permanent tissue. First, cell of meristem tissues are very active. This is the characteristic. They have dense cytoplasm. Each cell contains cytoplasm. So, meristematic tissues cell contain dense cytoplasm, thin cellulose wall and prominent nuclei. There is the lack of vacuoles, while the all type of plant cell contain vacuole, a large vacuole, but there is lack of vacuoles in the meristematic tissue, in the cell of the meristematic tissue. Now come on the permanent tissue. Permanent tissue, they also arises, or we can say originate from meristematic tissue. They are made up of cells which have lost the power of cell division. As I told you that the permanent tissue, they lost the division power. So these cells have a definite shape. जब वो डिवाइड नहीं हो रही हैं तो उनका एक पर्टिकुलर साइज है, तो दे टेक अप अ स्पेसिफिक रोल एंड लॉस द एबिलिटी टू डिवाइड. As a result, they form a permanent tissue. This process of taking up a permanent shape, size and function means whenever they lost the ability of dividing, they convert into permanent tissue, and this process is known as differentiation. Differentiation leads to the development of various types of permanent tissue, and due to loss that dividing capacity, they convert into different type of permanent tissue, in which the first of all, that is simple permanent tissue. A few layer of cell beneath the epidermis, and generally simple permanent tissue parenchyma is the most common of simple permanent tissue. You can see this is the epidermis. Over epidermis there is presence of cuticle, and just beneath the epidermis there is 4 or 5 layers are present of parenchyma. These are the parenchyma tissue. These parenchyma tissue are the cell of these tissues are arranged loosely. The large space between them is present, that is present for the storage of food material. Okay, these tissues generally store food.